It's so funny. I get nervous because the only thing I get nervous about is I go, oh no, this person knows the principles as much as me, or so it becomes like I better say something enlightening. But then I settle down. Like when I see familiar faces, like Catherine's on there, Wendy,
Yeah.
it makes me actually more relaxed. I'm like, oh, okay, these are friends. I can hang out with them.
Yeah,
Things
me
like
too.
that. So
Me too, definitely. And it's funny, if I have a lot of lead time towards something, I get more nervous. If someone just puts me on the spot and I've got to get up there and hold the stage for a few
gotta do
minutes
it.
for
Yeah,
somebody else, I'm fine.
that's so funny. That's so funny how how we make up ways to be nervous.
Yep.
If I do it this way, I'm not going to be nervous. If I do it this way,
Well,
then
you know what it is that I don't have any time to think about it when there's an emergency and
exactly
you have to
right.
take over. You just jump in. You don't think about it. It's the thinking that
Right.
gets you every time.
I'm telling you. So, where's Catherine at? I like she's got the
It's
backyard.
sunny.
I know she's got the.
Oh,
Look at
yeah.
that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Nice day. Can you unmute yourself and tell us where you're at?
Hi, you two. Good to be
Hi,
here.
Catherine.
I'm so happy I'm here. I got a couple of days off unexpectedly, so I've in a little town in northwestern Ontario, Canada.
Okay,
So,
cool.
so
Oh, that's
summer, I have to be outside because we had a really long winter. So this is,
Here, here.
I'm here and I'm
I
outside
agree.
enjoying the sun.
that's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's a good way to do this.
I didn't know if it would work, but it's working so far. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. There's a little bit of a glitch every once in a while, but
Okay.
you're right. Let me go get a bottle of water though.
Okay,
While I'm
take
at
your
it.
time.
Hi, Terry. How you doing?
Good,
We've
how are you?
I'm great. We've never really talked.
No, but I've seen your posts and I like so many of them. And in fact, Lynn Ann made me laugh because when she attended Patty's group, I think you were on one of Patty's calls,
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
she said, I just love everything this woman says. And I said, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's awfully nice because who knows, right? You just show up and you say a bunch of stuff and you hope that it's helpful. So anyway, that's nice to hear, Terry.
Yes, yes, she enjoyed the call very much.
That's great. I did too.
Good.
Charlotte. So Terry, how's the launch going?
Going well, going well. We have a lot of prizes to give away. So we've got coaching sessions from Linda Pettit, from Judy Sedgman, from Michael Neal.
Michael
Gosh,
Neal's
from
giving
like
a year to his
to
inner
his inner
circle.
circle. Plus, he's doing a coaching session. Like a dozen super coaches donated coaching sessions. Super cool. And we got book giveaways and all kinds of things. So now the test is for me to stay on Zoom for 12 hours and entertain people. You know,
Wow.
it sounded like such a great idea when we thought it up. And as we get closer to it, I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do for 12 hours?
So Terry, the 15 the thing that like the 15-minute thing, is that simply sharing what we've seen?
Yeah,
It's
what
not
you know for sure.
it's not a question and answer or anything like that. It's just
No, but you know, if we're hanging out and other people want to, we certainly can. But that's what we're really doing, is trying to record those what I know for sure
oh, that's awesome.
things to
Cool.
get them in there. I have been so touched by the ones that I've received so far. I mean, Dickon did one, Judy did one. Every time I watch one, I get all welled up and
Yeah.
emotional, and I'm like, man, if you can do this with a 3-minute video, you know, this is the way to share this.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's such a good idea. Now they did it for you beforehand, huh? Like what I'm
Judy
doing.
did and Dickon did because they couldn't attend live.
Oh, okay, got it. It's great that that happened because it's a good just a context of what it is. So it's really
Yep.
good.
Yep, and we've got a bunch more we're releasing on the day of the launch as well that people recorded ahead of time.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah, very exciting. So there's Wendy. And there's Richard. Richard's here. And Allie is off screen. And we'll see who else comes in. We'll probably do it a few minutes after, get started a few minutes after. People tend to come in a little later than the top of the hour.
Yeah, I mean, if they were Tony Robbins people, they'd be on the dot. But us people, we are so bad with time. We're just, God, we get coffee.
Well, you snooze, you lose.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, the subject caught my eye, Amir, because I met Sid back in '76.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and what I know for sure was 2 words, I'm okay.
Beautiful.
Which was kind of cool because it was a loose translation of his experience, which was all insecurity is his thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it took me a little bit to come to that realization, but you know, when you're ready, and trying to force it, well, it doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Because intellectually you're saying, I'm not there, I want to be there, and to push it beyond the natural sort of evolution, because it's going to happen anyways.
Exactly.
Sid just woke me up, and it took a little while for me to wake up. It wasn't that I was thick or anything like that. It was just, you know, we used to go to a weekly gathering, and we went to one, my wife and I, and we were halfway home, and I just went, bing, oh, I'm okay. Something happened that night as a result of, you know, probably 4 or 5 months of meeting new people and listening to Sid and sharing what we were discovering and whatnot. So,
well, I love that, man. If you once this is up on recording, I'd love to hear that story again. I think that's a really in line with what we're going to talk about
that's
today.
what I'm sharing with Terry on Sunday on the 20th is what I know for sure. It's 2 words. I'm okay. We're all okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that. And you're absolutely right.
And Cleege is here. Hi, Cleege. And Robert.
Hello.
And Nicholas. Good to see everybody.
Where are you at?
Oh,
Where are you at,
can you hear me? I am in the Canary Islands, so I'm using my mobile internet, so I don't know if it's sketchy or if it's stable.
It's a little bit.
A little slow.
A little bit slow.
You can't hear me, can you?
We can.
Okay.
It just drags a little.
Let me try something. You can?
We can.
Okay. In that case, I may turn off the camera just in case. May work out better this way.
Sure. If it gives you more ability to hear and take part, absolutely.
Yes. Is it better this way?
Yeah. So far.
Marvelous. Okay. Wonderful. So I'll be listening from the background then.
Sounds good. And there's William. William, I couldn't tell if you had someone behind you or if that was a mirror behind you at first.
Actually, you got 2 for 1 here.
I see that.
This is my old buddy.
Hey, old buddy.
Good to have you both.
Okay.
Now, if he didn't sign up, he can't be on this call. He's gonna have...
but 1/2 of us signed up.
Okay, fair, that's fine. Just cover 1 year then.
I know.
Split personality.
There you go.
Just our combined ages entitles us.
Fair enough. I'll take that.
Hi, Robert. Robert shared a what I know for sure too that will be going up on the site.
I think that's such a cool idea. I think it's such a good little reminder for even people in the principles, hopefully people outside of the principles start to go, what is going on? Why are all these people okay? You know, what's happening? It's what happened to me when I went to my first event with Michael Neal. Everyone was so lovey-dovey and happy. I'm like, something is wrong, or I need to be on whatever they're on.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's funny. The first year I did Super Coach Academy with him, you know, I went in and I said to him, how did you, is this the first weekend? Are you sure it's the first weekend? Like all these people seem to know each other and love each other already. And he goes, I know, it's just fascinating. And the second year we did it, I thought, well, this is too bad because we won't get that, you know, again, like we did the first year. And it happened again. And I was like, what are you doing? How are you pre-qualifying these people?
Right.
It's like, what are you doing to make this happen? But it just amazes me how much love can be in a room.
Yeah.
Terry, can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
Before I came across the principles, because I've been studying kind of inner work without knowing. So like all of us, probably, I kind of had an intuitive sense of it. And a lot of people commented on my lovey-doveyness, if you will. But many people felt really put off by it. It was like, oh, you can't be this happy, these horse happy crappy shit. It was like, excuse me, separate realities. I'm happy. Excuse me if you are unhappy about my happiness. However, since I came across the principles, and I found people from like, people are, depending where they are in the moment, like we know.
Sure.
But I felt that finally I had found my tribe. I was like, oh, I'm not a weirdo after all. So thank you.
It's funny, I signed my emails love. And in all the years I've done it, I only had one person comment about it. And he was really upset that I signed it love and said, you know, you shouldn't give love away so easily. And I said, I'm really sorry you feel that way, but I really do want to give love away that easily. And I hope you know it was a sincere love when I signed it. And he wrote me this beautiful letter back that after he reflected on it a few days, he wrote me a beautiful letter back. And it was just really nice. So
Yeah.
I figure you can never have too much love in the world.
Yeah, lovey-dovey unite.
That's right.
There you go. We could really get some rumors started on what the three principles are about if we start putting up bumper stickers, lovers unite, and things like that.
Right.
So we'll give it another minute and then we'll get started and we'll let people jump in wherever they jump in.
You're just reminding me of flower children. Back in my day, it was, you know, love, peace, all that stuff.
The hippies. I was born in '69. Okay, so we'll give it a go. I'll go ahead and read my introduction because I get so nervous talking. I'll just read it out and then I'll let you take it away, Amir. So for those of you who don't know Amir, Amir is a three principles coach and an author of numerous titles, and he runs a popular Facebook group called What the F Are the Three Principles. I first met Amir when I was working with Michael Neal. Amir would sign up for a course or a webinar and put little things in the form that would make me laugh, like he was referred by his homeboy or the rabbit down the street. In addition to the humor, he would also put in little hi Terrys here and there. And it always touched me that every time he placed an order, he thought of the people behind the scenes. Earlier this year, he released a three principles strategy and technique book in an effort to answer those people who are desperately seeking the how-tos. And it will come as no surprise that the book was completely blank. There it is, Amir's holding it up. Amir was surprised, however, when people bought it anyway. And he generously donated the proceeds of that to Center for Sustainable Change. So we are very appreciative of that. And Amir's been bringing humor and a gentle compassion for the Three Principles community ever since I've met him. And I'm just really grateful that he's generously donated his time for us to be with us today. And I love the topic, People Before Principles, because I realize that every time I get caught up in talking about the principles and get stuck, it's usually because I've forgotten either the humanity or the divinity of the person in front of me. So when I saw People Before Principles on Amir's site, I was like, we have to talk about this. So with no further ado, I'll let Amir jump in.
That was really sweet, your intro. I didn't even realize that you took note of that. I thought, you know, whenever I emailed or when I'd place an order, you'd also respond and say, I'm glad to have you on this. And it was so touching. It was. And those little quips and just the talks, it did mean a lot to me as well. So thank you. That's really awesome. So to begin, I have to say, what makes the principles different than what I used to do with NLP and hypnosis? And we'll get to the people versus principles. But what the biggest shift for me with the principles were that it's an equal opportunity paradigm. And what I mean by that is when you sit with somebody, there is no teacher, there is no student, there is no person that knows more or less. It's simply people looking at a direction and exploring. And what that does for me and why that's comforting is, you know, for many years as an NLP practitioner, it was my job to show people how to do the strategies and techniques. And if they're doing it incorrectly, it was on me. In a way, this relieved me from having to worry if I'm doing it right. Because if I'm not seeing something, I'll eventually either see it or someone else will point something out that I didn't see. So it becomes a community effort. And that's what I love about the Center for Sustainable Change. And what you're doing is you're just bringing a lot of people looking in a certain direction. And it's such a wonderful way to explore and to go on a journey together. And that actually segues to what we're going to talk about today. When I started, I work at a recovery center now. And I don't have I never had a drug issue, never been an addict. I don't have a recovery background. I'm not a therapist or a counselor. They simply wanted me to go and speak about what I know. And I was terrified because I'm going to a center where I've never dealt with drugs before. I've never really dealt with addictions. And right off the bat, the first thing I said is, I'm going to teach them the principles. Because right off, the first day I did it, it was like mind, consciousness, and thought, and, Sid Banks quotes and Michael Neal videos. And people said it was cool. And I was like, how come they're not getting it? I mean, like, this is mind blowing. What's going on? Then the next couple classes, I just started to share from what I know. I said, you know what, this wasn't working. I just started to share. It was about a month in where I asked the group, what's the best thing that you have learned from my group? And I was hoping they would say, well, I learned about the principles or what insight is. And they said, this is the only hour that I don't have to feel like an addict and I can be a human. And it struck me that once I got rid of the idea of how I need to share the principles and I actually connected with them and I listened and didn't try to interpret what they need from my thinking and I just showed up, something changed. And what I mean by when I say people, before the principles is that when we connect from that space of humanity first, what they see is just an added bonus. What I explain is just an added bonus, right? The gateway for them to be able to see something new is a deep connection first and foremost. And even in my group, in my Facebook group, I see it. We get caught up in our head and it's like, no, you're doing the principles wrong and you're saying, and it becomes funny to see that, because the very thing that got us into the principles in the first place is simply a glimpse, is simply an opening, is simply a dismantling of all the ideas we had from our personal thinking until we saw something enough to connect with our wife, our employee, or ourselves. And then we get back into, well, I want more of that. And we forget the very thing that we want more of was simply connection, simply being on a journey with somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean not to look deeply into the principles or read books or go to seminars. But when it's time to be with somebody else, it's time to be with somebody else. When it's time to connect with somebody else or to coach, this is going to sound strange, but when it's time to coach someone, don't be a coach. Just listen. When it's time to be at a recovery center and help addicts, stop looking at them as addicts and listen. And something happens from that space. Something emerges from that space. And it relieves us from having to come in. I hear it all the time from my coaching clients. How do I share the principles? And it becomes such a thing to do, because if I don't do it right and if I mess it up, they're not even available to discuss what it's all about, right? And so, you know, if I have to give a strategy, is you start from where you are. So, you know, when I ask a client or a coach that's working with me, well, what are you afraid of? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. I'm afraid that they're not going to understand what the principles are. They're going to think it's a cult. They're going to think that I've lost grips with reality. I said, great, then you share that with them. And they go, well, why would I do that? I said, because that's where you really are. Because the real time you is what people need. After all, how do we tell people that they're okay where they're at when we don't believe we are? Right? How do we tell people that our state of mind is going to do what states of mind are going to do? They're going to fluctuate. But in that state of mind, wherever we are, we have what's called consciousness or awareness to let us know we are just going in a roller coaster. That we are just simply going in a ride. But regardless of the ride, I can tell you where I'm at. I'm at the highest point of the ride. Now I'm going down. Now I'm going up. We're just simply explaining the ride. And what a gift it is to be able to share with people. I'm afraid right now. I don't know where to begin, because that in of itself is a beginning. I don't know where to start. Well, that's a wonderful starting place. And from there, something tends to emerge, because you have now connected to real time. You have now connected to this moment wherever you are at. And then we start to transcend our state of mind. We transcend what we think we are, and we just become with the people in front of us, as I am with you guys right now. Because to be honest with you, I actually didn't know what I was going to say today. I had no idea. I jotted some stuff down, and Terry, before the call, I'm not sure if it was being recorded, said she gets nervous, right? And she said she likes to be in the background. And as soon as she said that, I kind of went, oh yeah, you know, I don't really get nervous. But now I'm like, well, she said there might be 55 people on this call. I got a little bit nervous. And then I looked, I can see on the sides who's here. And I saw Catherine. I recognized her, and I've had dialogues with her. And I went, I'm all right. And I looked back and I realized, well, if Terry's nervous and she runs a center for sustainable change, well, then I could be a little bit nervous on this call too. And it just did something for me. So it either kind of dissipated or I just don't care. I don't know which one it is. It stopped mattering, because what's in front of me is you guys. What's in front of me is to be able to discuss this with you guys. And that's what allows us to see something new. So all we need in this paradigm is a glimpse. And everyone on this call, I'm assuming if you know about the Center of Sustainable Change, you already know enough about the principles that you've gotten a glimpse, right? Richard Mayer beautifully said, you know, he's going to do his 15 minutes of what he knows for sure about the principles. And he just had 2 words. He said, I'm okay. And he actually went on to share, you know, why is because he spent time with Sid Banks. And for whatever reason, that was his glimpse, that he's okay. Now, if he goes and speaks to my recovery group, and in his heart of hearts, he truly believes that, he truly saw that for himself, that will do more than me spending an hour talking about mind, consciousness, and thought and trying to find my principal way of sharing everything. I assure you that. His simple 2 words and them seeing him light up and glow from the memory of his transition, of him seeing something, will pierce through someone's heart, and they will see it. And I've seen it time and time again, where people now leave my group, and I've heard people, you know, the therapists really think I'm nuts in my group, because literally after my group, they have to go on one-on-one with their therapist at my recovery center. And they'll go to their counselor or their therapist that they need to do their, you know, daily check-ins. And they'll be like, so how are you feeling today? And they'll say things like, I feel like I'm home, I've arrived. And the counselor will be like, what the heck are you talking about? And it's gotten to a point where the counselors are starting to see that it's a feeling. It's something that they have seen, that they're experiencing, in a feeling that they're usually accustomed to saying, well, tell me more about what what that means. What does home mean? How do you explain home? They don't do that. They're starting to go, oh, that makes sense. Okay, well, have a nice day. I'll put that in your notes. Someone else comes in and they go, I'm okay for today. I'm complete. I'm okay to just talk about life with you, to the counselor, and they go, all right, well, let's talk about life. And it's just, the shift has happened in such a way that they are now okay knowing that if they're not able to explain it, they're okay. If they're not able to articulate something, that in the lack of articulation, others may see something now. That space, even in our community, is missing. We feel like, we get a glimpse, and now it's our job to make sure that we shove that glimpse down their throat with analogies and metaphors and read this book. I mean, if you're in that space, only give them this book, which is my book. But I mean, I'm not saying that, no, you don't have to do that. But what I'm saying is, go back to what happened when you shifted. What happened when you shifted? Just think back of the time you shifted. And I assure you it was gentle. I assure you it may have been a mind-blowing thing, but there was a softness to it, but a big excitement to it, but there was this compassion behind it. And it felt different than whatever it was. Even having that as a starting point to share with people, it would be enough if you're lost in your mind. Talk about the glimpse. Talk about the shift. And then if you sprinkle the principles from there, so be it. It'll show up. Now that you've seen something, you are embodying the principles. You don't have to tell people the principles. You're embodying it. That's why when you hear people like Elsie and George Pransky and Jack, to this day, I just saw something from Elsie, and it cracks me up. They still go, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. How do you not know how to talk about it? You've been doing this stuff for years. How do you still not know how to talk about this stuff? Because what they're saying is, where should I begin? Okay, let me get myself settled. Okay, here's where I'm going to begin. But you see that they're not uncomfortable with not knowing where to begin. You can see that they're actually excited to begin from that space of unknowing. And I finally got it after the last Elsie Spittle thing, that's not a shtick. That's not a strategy for the principals. She genuinely shows up. George does, Jack does, everyone, the as we call them, the old guards, simply see so much of coming into this space from the unknown and letting that guide us and seeing something fresh. After 30, 40, 50 years of doing this stuff, people are still excited to see something fresh. And that freshness is this moment. That freshness is connecting with people. That freshness isn't, well, I read this and, they said mind is this universal energy. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Now, it may show up as that. I'm not saying don't do that. But if it looks like you need to have a way or they won't see it, you're probably going the wrong direction. But if you're simply showing up for them to be with you and see what all of us will see together, in my experience, that's always been the right direction to go and to start from. And if you guys have anything to add to that, I'd love to hear anything or any questions, or if this was interesting or useful.
And you guys are muted by default. So if you do want to chime in, feel free to unmute yourself, wave your hand, jump in. We don't have that many people on the call that we can't, just be respectful and talk. So if you have anything to add, please do.
This is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
How are you?
Good.
I would love to show my real face, but I can't figure out how to do it on the phone. So this will have to do. I am just so grateful for the reminder of the simplicity. And I'm heading to the school of the Sid Bank School in Salt Spring in June to be with Elsie and Chip and I guess his wife. But I am just so happy to be in that place and in that environment, and having Amir, when you spoke directly about Elsie's particular way, that it isn't a strategy, it isn't a tool. She isn't trying to show up in a particular Zen-like way. She's just being herself. And way back when I first came in contact with the principles, one insight, if you will, that I had was, you know how when you're getting on a ride, like at an amusement park, like say a Ferris wheel, and you have to, there's a commitment to be made when you take that bar and you put it across your lap and you go, cha-chung, you're in. And you can, before that you might be like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of high, it's kind of fast, it's kind of weird, I'm not really sure, that outside in thinking like, what if. But once you commit, you just go, I'm in and I'm ready for this ride, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I might throw up, I might fall out, I don't know, they might break, but I could have a really good time. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm trusting it. And so ever since then, that feeling of chuk-chung, that's what I'm reminded of when I'm starting to go off and my mind is going in 18 directions, is this sense of just sit back and trust and cha-chung. It's really powerful. And I'm in the group with Amir too, and I'll tell you, I'm part of that conversation where there's somebody or some comments that I view as being disrupting my peace of mind, and I resent it, and I'm upset about it, and I don't want it to happen, and I think this person should be, I don't know, not sanctioned, but I'm just saying, is there a way that we can convince this person that he's wrong and I'm right? It's hysterically funny. And Catherine, I see you smiling over there, because I reached out to Catherine this morning and I said, oh, help me be a good, kind person, and she did. And so it's just such a warm and loving thing. And I'm looking forward. I've never been to a 3P large event. So I'm looking forward to going in that room at Salt Spring Island and experiencing, like, what are they all on crack in here? What's going on? I'm really looking forward to that sensation of love, because if it comes through loud and clear on a freaking webinar with like 4 little screens showing on my phone, and if it comes through on what the F and hell are the principles, then good Lord, how can, being with real humans with flesh and blood not be a transformative experience? So I don't know that it was a question, but more like, I'm here, I'm happy, and I just want to say hi. So thanks.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. That is the best response to even this conversation, is to be able to share from the heart. It doesn't have to be a question. It doesn't have to be mind blowing or whatever. It's like, this is what's nice about this is I shared and she shared, and we're just all together. And that's it. That's the game now. And I did want to say something that I realized is, the more I am in this conversation and the more that I'm seeing it in the recovery center, the less words start to show up when someone gets a glimpse. And the more you can see the feeling behind their stillness or the 2 words that they say, just like when Richard even spoke briefly before, when he just simply said, I know I'm okay. The life becomes significant, but the meaning of the words become less, I've realized. It's like the significance of what you've seen becomes a feeling, and the terminology becomes meaningless. And it almost becomes, it's a very strange, it's very counterproductive when writing notes at a recovery center, I'll tell you that. I have to write notes for every single person, and it's like, they just feel different. Next one is, they saw something, and it's like, well, what did they see? And it's like, I don't know, it's for them to see. I'm not sure. They saw something. And it's funny, because on one level, it's terrible for for the insurance company, but another, I hope we continue this conversation. I hope the people in the insurance and the people that read the notes start to see that that translation is really where the magic is. That the less notes I write and the more I talk about the feeling that was conveyed in the room, I hope that has some sort of importance moving forward in addiction, in business, and whatever it is, because something has to change. And I think as we start to look in that direction of seeing the significance from inside and not the meaning from outside, something will start, this thing will be global. I think this thing will be what's going to, what I honestly believe is going to change the world. But the world changing is going to look a lot different than we need to get this out there because this is the right way and this is the wrong way. It's kind of the double-edged sword, because the more you see this, the less you're crazy vocal about it. You're just walking around having fun, and you're spending time with family. And like we kind of joked about it on this call. You're like, well, don't be surprised if some people are late. And I said, well, yeah, because if it was an NLP group, they would be 5 minutes on time, ready to go, because that's how you do life. And like, there's a gentleness with us, right? And the principles, it's like, my first coaching call with George Pransky, he's 10 minutes late. I call his office, like, we don't know where he's at. He finally calls me and he's like, I'm so sorry. I was at Starbucks and the lady just started talking to me and we had such a good feeling. She ended up giving me a muffin for free. I'm going, what is this guy doing? Is he out of his mind? But after talking to him, several more times, like, we're having a conversation. Like, I came from the coaching world, and you get on time and it's, you got to make sure. And it took me a while to realize that he doesn't see me as a client. He doesn't see me as like this coaching. Look, we're going to have a talk like we would with anybody else. And something shifted in me in that as well. Like, now, of course, if it was a strategy, I would probably take offense to it. If it was, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, to show him that, don't worry about time so much. But something shifted in me. And again, he brought it back to people, because I was on the call for him to tell me about the principles, and I have an hour, and he just made my hour 50 minutes. And now I'm going to have 50 minutes to learn the principles from George. And I realized how much I had invested in this idea that I needed to learn this thing. And his lack of interest in teaching me the principles, and his interest in just being with me, was such a good reminder that, wow, I'm really taking the principles so much more seriously than I needed to, that I have George Pransky on the line, and that I can't even be in the moment with him because he messed up my call the way I thought it's supposed to be, right? And thank goodness he was gracious enough to get on another call and another call. But that's something that I take into account now, is us, is the people.
Amir, I came from the coaching industry as well, working with Michael as a virtual assistant. And I have to say that when I read Modelo and heard Roger's way of doing this, it appealed to me much more, because I didn't want to be the one standing on a stage talking about what mind consciousness and thought was. That idea just was not something I was interested in. But it seemed like what Roger did was he sat down next to somebody and loved them. And I thought, I can do that.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's beautiful. That's I mean, we could literally end the call right now after that, because that's literally what it is love them, and then maybe go talk about the principles. But it's not talk about the principles in order to show them what love is, right? Because love is one of the ways that we cut through personal thinking and our ego and all that stuff. That's the biggest catalyst to cut through everything. I remember in the same vein as what you just shared, I had the therapist that got me into the recovery center said, lately in my groups, people are freaking out and They don't get what I'm talking about in my group. And what do you do when people freak out? And I said, well, if I knew that it's my job to settle them, then I would do anything I can possible to settle them. But if I can be settled in their unsettlement and see that what they're going through is transient, what they're going through is just simply a state of mind that will eventually shift. And if I'm settled enough, they will see their own settling. That's all I can do is see where I'm at and what glimpses I've seen. And he got that shift too because he thought that it was his responsibility. Again, it was more about the strategy and the way of doing this right. So to make sure that the other person either settles down and relaxes. Now, granted, if something is going on where they're physically harming themselves, of course, grab them and settle them down. But it turns out 10 out of 10 times in my group so far, my glimpse alone has done enough for them to get a glimpse for themselves. It's really, really seems like an insignificant thing, but it's so important to go back to everyone that's here, that the glimpse that you have seen is a beautiful starting point and a beautiful ending point for any conversation, be it in a business meeting, in a recovery center, with your wife, with your husband, on a webinar. Because all I'm doing right now in the last however long I've been here, I've just shared the glimpses I've seen. That's all I'm doing. I've seen glimpses, and the glimpses I've seen typically becomes a catalyst, not for me, but for your own space to be like, well, I've seen glimpses too. Oh, that's right. I see where he's coming from with that. And that's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I see there's a couple hands raised, so I'd love to see.
Richard, I think you had your hand raised.
Thanks. Just numerous times, Amir, you've been chatting, and you know, Sid used to talk about beyond space, time, and matter, which until you wake up enough to be aware of what that really truly means and how that can become a regular part of your, moment-to-moment experience. When you're ready, you're ready. I mean, like, I've always done well in my life, from a point of view of school and stuff like that, but I was never really a person who would forthright engage another person. So that was that whole thing around I'm okay. I mean, that changed after that. I used to count to 10 before I'd make calls to the building or the planning department, but here I am, top graduate in building technology, and I'm counting to 10 before I pick up the phone and just need to talk simple questions with somebody that at the other end of the line is in my realm. After I had that experience of I'm okay, I stopped counting. It was just the gratitude I felt for being able to live without thinking about what do I need to do to live my life, and just simply live. So that waking up, it's a major part of just, living the principles. I didn't even know when I woke up that I was searching. That was one of the things I realized. Oh, I'm searching. And I didn't even know that. So one of the other things that I really enjoyed, getting to know Sid was simply just living ordinary life with him. And I can remember one day driving him somewhere on the island, and he asked me a question, what would you like to do? And, I hear people talking about coaching, and whether it's, business, education, psychology, whatever, I realized then I was not in the helping profession per se. Had not really followed a lot of self-help or self-growth trains of thought or anything like that. I was just living my life. But, that I'm okay wake-up call really helped move me along the timeline. And he asked me, what do you want to do? And I thought, well, I'm not in the helping profession, psychology, psychiatry, business, education, so forth. You know, I really like I love what I do. You know, the creative side of the work I've done for 40 years is what I love doing, because creativity is, again, it's one of those extensions of the human soul. You really don't know what's going to come out, but you tap into the essence. Wow. It took me some 30 years to understand his real question. And it wasn't that I was not observant or anything. It just took 30 years of evolution of not reflecting on it, but just letting it sort of simmer. And George Pransky talks about the back burner. When it's ready to come out, it's like a chef with a great sauce. You know, he'll, you know, taste and stuff like that. But when it's ready, and you'll know. And I came to the realization that Sid's real question back 30 odd plus years ago was, now that you've uncovered the secret to life, what are you going to do with it? Which is markedly different from me intellectually thinking, what am I going to do? And it's a constant moment to moment waking up, because, you know, I look back over, well, 42 years. Last year was a tough year for me, only because I momentarily kind of forgot about that grounding that I've evolved through over, you know, 41 years. And it's like, thank God it's only thought. But man, you can really do yourself in, you know, if you get caught in what you think is the reality. Again, think reality. So appreciate you sharing today. The subject just really caught my attention, you know, people before principles. It's like the principles have always been there. We just wake up to discover them. Or as I love the word uncovering. But more so uncovery, because that's like, uncovering is something that you understand. It's in the dictionary. But uncovery is just a different application of, you know, discovering. It's already there. It's not that you're having to find it. It's already there. You just wake up to it. And thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you, Richard, for your share.
Does anyone else want to raise a hand?
I think Catherine.
Catherine?
I guess that means I have to also unmute. I really love, I love what Amir has to share, and I love his group for one reason, for many reasons, but one of the reasons being, when I first encountered, came across Sid Banks and the way he articulates how our experience is created, it was, for me, as for many people, a real bombshell. It was a culmination of, it was a lifelong search, and bang, the search was over. And that just continues to, that was 2 years ago for me. But what happened for me after a while, I was like very a zealot, and I was on all the webinars and I was crying, and I still do that sometimes. But as I have settled down and just appreciated being a part of this community and this articulation of the human experience, I've realized that I got caught up in trying to express myself in the 3P way. And it really paralyzed me for a while. And I got lost in that attempt to sound like fill in the blank. And not a particular other person, but, oh, how do I now share this articulation of the truth? And I have a close friend who's just finished her master's degree in psychology. And Funnily enough, I have a lot of friends who went on to higher education in the field of psychology, and I stopped at a 2-year college social service program and just floundered around looking for something more, looking for, because my sense of my life was that it was a spiritual journey. However, anyway, she said to me so beautifully recently, she told me that something I said to her years ago, before I ever knew about the 3 principles, had changed her life. And what that meant for me, it just woke me up to what Amir is talking about, speaking from the heart. I'd learned a long time ago that if I wanted to connect, I needed to be authentic and speak from the heart, from wherever I was at in the moment. And it often didn't seem like a good place, you know. It seemed, but I developed the courage to just be in the moment and, as best I was able, speak from my heart. And so when this friend told me, you said XYZ 8 years ago, and I want you to know that changed the direction of my life. And I'd said something about love or integrity or whatever it was that however I was articulating my journey at that time. But it woke me up and reminded me that coming from the heart is what really matters, and connecting in that feeling of love, and being willing to trust exactly where I am in the moment and be real about that. And when I heard Sid Banks talking about there was nothing to do and we already had everything we needed, and that love and understanding was what everybody needed, that was the starting point, love and understanding. And then what we have to share from that place is going to be everything, you know. So whatever words we then put around our understanding, it's the love and understanding piece that matters. And, you know, I mean, this articulation just did something for me. It was like my understanding of thought and the power of thought, it just transformed. I wasn't seeking anymore. I knew I was either in my personal thinking or I was dropping into my true nature. And the clarity that brought was, you know, so I still see the value in the articulation of the principles, but boy, it's the love and understanding that is the thing, you know. It's, anyway. So and Amir brings that all the time. He just brings it right back to that. And it's the ultimate, if I'm telling other people they've got everything they need, do I realize that in this moment, I have everything I need? You know, because I better just shut up. Because if I don't really know that, I better not try and convince them that it's true. So Amir just always brings me back to the authentic truth of who I am in the moment and doing my best to connect from the heart. And then everything flows from there. So anyway, that's it.
Well, I could listen to you for hours, Catherine. I love it. I can listen to you all day. And what occurred to me when you spoke is, yes, the articulation is important, but the transporter of that articulation is the heart. Like for it to be carried through, what takes it to somebody else is heart or spirit, is the understanding and the love. That's the biggest transporter of this understanding, because we can talk all we want about this stuff. We can articulate it as beautifully as we can, but if the heart's not there, there's nothing to carry it through. And as you eloquently put it, that's how I see it as well. And that's time and time again. I sometimes get caught in my head and I talk to a coaching client or my webinars or my recovery groups, and I go, why did I do that again? You know, and what's funny is, coming from the heart is so easy. It's so natural, but for some reason, we all tend to go to the well, I got to do it better. I got to do it different. Oh, the people in this room know about the principles. The people in this room really need to hear this stuff, so I'm going to do. And you know, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember I went to a 3PG conference, and they had breakout rooms, right? You can go learn about the principles in business and learn about the principles with your relationships. And as I went to different breakout rooms, I went, they're such liars, because when I went to the business one, they talked about coming from the heart. Then I went to the one about the marriage ones, and they're like, just speak from where you know. And I'm like, there's no such thing. Like, they just did it out of convenience to see what interests you. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals are the same, no matter what room you are, who you're talking to, what they know, what they don't know. It comes from, where are you? What have you seen? And to the best of your ability, what can you share from what you've seen? And then wait and let them tell you what they've seen. And then we go from there, and we love and we connect and we feel and we see some more. And I, like all of you guys, probably have to remind myself over and over again. I go, okay, so I created a group and people have paid me. So I got to really, really tell them what's going on about the principles. And I go, oh crap, here I've done it again. So, for people listening here, you already know enough. If you're on this call, you already know enough. If you get off this call, you already know enough. And what comes out of your mouth or what doesn't come out of your mouth is going to be secondary to the heart and spirit that you already embody, the principles that are already with you. The words are just icing on the cake at this point. So.
For me, one of the things I love about a community of people who see this is that you kind of catch on really fast how silly we all are as human beings. So you can kind of like laugh at each other and laugh with each other over these times that you get caught up, and not take it so seriously, and have compassion for other people that caught up, whether it looks extreme and it's, they committed a crime, or it's something as simple of, oops, I'm doing it again. We're all the same, and we all operate from the same place. And there's something about finding humor in that and finding lightness in that allows me to feel lighter about everything that I am and do. And it's not so serious after all. If we're making it up, why not make it up so we win? Clesia, I think your hand went up.
Yes, I'm gonna stop the camera because I'm on my mobile internet, so to ensure at least the voice goes through. Thank you so much. I'm loving this conversation, and mostly I'm loving the feeling on the call. And I know I'm feeling my thought, but in reality, I don't know that. That's why I'm saying it. What occurred to me up to a few weeks back, a thought that I used to have in the background is that because I came across the principles back in 2011 and have been learning from people who have been looking this direction for longer than I, in the back of my mind, there was this little thought saying, oh, I'm not an expert yet, right? So really need to dive in. And I was kind of holding back really to sharing what I've known. I've done a few projects, okay? I got in contact with people who had seen the principles longer than I. I put a couple of shows together. It was really well received, and now and then I get messages on Facebook. But I felt comfortable interviewing other people, like them. They are the expert. I'm really good in interviewing people, and I was happy with that. But in a way, I was kind of in a closet about it. And recently, a thought that I had, it was like, oh, hang on a minute. If you came across this in 2011, and the people you're talking with probably are people that haven't come across the principles yet. So therefore, you know a little bit more than they do. Right. I know there is erroneous thinking because down deep we are all the same level. There are no levels. But I guess had that realization, I was able to feel more confident going forward with I know. And on the line of what I know for sure, a couple of weeks ago, I delivered a speech for the Toastmasters in my area. And about 95% of the audience was male. So usually the Toastmasters attendees tend to be people more business oriented, not always, but mostly. And I decided that I would be talking about the principles. So I started by sharing what I know for sure. And one of the things that I had asked myself that I thought that I didn't know was like, how can I make something that is invisible visible? And I guess by taking that step into the unknown, almost like a leap of faith and just go forward, it became so obvious. I started by saying, what I know for sure is that there is this intelligence of life that blooms trees. What I know for sure is there is the intelligence of life that pumps my heart and breathes my lungs, and yours too. And then the thing just flowed from there. And I don't remember everything I said, but the most important thing is that resonated. I felt in a moment, and a lot of people really got it. And it was a 6-minute speech, not long. And we don't need much time to make an impact, but it was mostly the feeling that we were in. And I was very surprised in the end because different people took different things. Some people say, oh, you were talking about not worrying. And someone said, oh, you were talking about being in a moment. Someone said, oh, you're talking about love. It was like, this is incredible. This helps almost everyone. One person was like, I didn't get what you were talking about, but I really like your nice smile. I was like, fantastic. How does it get any better? So by dropping that notion of being the expert, that is old feeling, that allowed me to experiment with something new. So really, that is what I would like to share. Someone was asking, when are you delivering the TED Talk? So I'm glad there is always enthusiastic people on the audience as well. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else have anything they want to share? Robert?
Yeah, I'll go. I was looking for the hand raising thing and I found myself physically raising my hand.
That's okay, we gotcha.
I'm just marveling in the synchronicity of what I've been hearing the past couple of days. I've been watching the live stream from a conference, 3P conference that's going on in London right now. And or actually it's over now, but Dick and Bettinger gave a talk yesterday entitled, Love is Always, Always the Answer. And I tell you, I mean, we can talk about mind and consciousness and thought, but they don't, and I find that very powerful. But when he talked about love, all of a sudden, man, and then I tune into this call, and before the official conversation got started, you guys are talking about being lovey-dovey and signing your name love, and I'm thinking, holy crap, this is what it's all about. I don't know how to share the 3 principles always with words, but my desire to do that comes from love. You know, and I don't have to know how to do that. It does itself. It does me. And it finds a way to connect. It finds the words, if words are appropriate. It finds the behaviors to match that. And I can trust that. I don't trust my understanding, my intellectual understanding. And that doesn't count for much anyway. But this is real. And we all feel it. We're all talking about it. And I think that's, I mean, to me, love is a synonym for mind. And mind as a concept is kind of esoteric. And I understand words about it. But love, I know, I feel. And that's my motivation for everything I do in life. I realize that even when I'm working on somebody's computer, I'm there to be helpful. This is just a skill I have, an avenue that life is using at the moment to be helpful. When I'm doing coaching, Same motivation, different form. But and I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just the message that the universe has given me the past couple days that I really needed to hear, because I felt like I was caught up in my head, was no, it's not that hard. Just get back down into your heart and everything becomes really self-evident at that point. So thank you.
Yeah. I want to say something, and my buddy wants to say something. You know, what I love is that actually, when I feel all of you are so lovable, and when I feel lovable, it just, everything flows so easily. And I often feel like just a sponge soaking up all that energy. And I love it when I don't have to think, but I'm so often there in my thinking, which kind of shoves my feelings aside. But when I don't think about it and I'm just flowing, it just feels like, just whether I'm playing tennis or what, when I'm in that moment, I just love that feeling. And I love what you said, Robert. And Amir, when I first heard you a couple of days ago, you just seemed very lovable. You seemed very natural. And I thought, oh, yeah. And I know that when I'm there, people seem to respond that way. And my old buddy here, we go out every once a week to Starbucks, and we just talk and talk and talk. And we have the best time. And neither one of us, of course, know what we're going to say, but it just doesn't run out. And here are these old two guys sitting there looking at each other, because we're both hard of hearing, about this far apart. And sometimes we talk, sometimes they don't. And I'm sure other people wonder what in the hell they're doing. But we just have so much fun. And he's just one big loving guy. So it just, and I think he wants to say something too, but I just say, I love it when I don't know what I'm going to say and I can trust, because just as much as I love listening to what's coming out of you all, I love it the same way when I don't know what's going to come out of me. It's so fresh and new. And when I'm in the moment, it's just so much fun. That's what I enjoy about life. It's just so much fun. I've spent so many years, knew Sid way back in the 80s. It took me so long to really, quote, get it. And now it's just that I'm so passionate and just excited and what I'm learning. And that thing about I'm okay. Oh, wow. That was finally, when I finally got it, that was such a nice feeling. So you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to comment. This is my first webinar, and although I've been involved in learning for many years, and I'm basically overwhelmed with emotion over this whole experience for the first time. I loved what Catherine had to say about heart, and I thought, boy, am I feeling heart today. It's all in love and appreciation and insight. So many valuable thoughts came across, but I was so filled with emotion, I couldn't really absorb my thoughts and feelings at the same time. It just seemed like it was just overwhelming me. I just want to say, thank you so much for sharing, Amir. You've opened a whole new window for me of how to approach people and groups that I need to think about, and thank you. And Robert, you too. What Coach had to say about you, I'd resonate with me as well. So thank you.
These moments right here are those spaces when all problems disappear. And the world looks perfect and beautiful and whole. And it's just so precious.
Well, I just want to say thank you. just helping me to remember and to remind me, because sometimes I forget about whatever I'm involved in. I get caught up in the doing. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do it. And then when I remember, just be. It's just about being and flowing. And when you come from the heart, people know that, you know. And I say this often because it's a reminder for myself. I recently retired from teaching in the university, and that environment is so task focused, planning and having to teach and follow a guideline. And it's totally different from my approach and, again, my understanding of the 3 Ps. But once I retired and moved to Florida, I still was teaching part-time. And I remember I was in a class, and one of the students, and these are college students, adults, actually, the person I'm talking about was older than me. And he said, you know why we do so well in your course? And I said, okay, well, why? Tell me why. Because I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he said, because we know you love us. And I know I give them the heart, but people really, it's so wonderful, you know? And earlier someone said there's a gentleness in the 3P community. And I feel that. It's so wonderful. So just thank you, everyone, for sharing and the reminder. And I like the chachung. I like that. Thank you.
You are welcome. Feel free to cha-chung your way through life.
It's okay. I'd like to share a quick story with my mom before I was into the principles and I got a glimpse. My mom has, was it 15, 12 brothers and 13 sisters or something like that. I don't even know anymore. It's just a crazy amount of siblings, and majority of them got killed in the Russian invasion or brutally murdered. It was pretty bad, and my mom grew up in that environment, and she never really shared it with me when we were younger. But there were days where we would be at home, and she would just turn on the music and start crying and dancing. And I literally thought she was nuts. I didn't know why she would do that. She'd just get up one day, she'd stop making her breakfast, put on music, and it would be, really lively Afghan music, and just start dancing away. And I one day finally asked her, I said, Mom, what is going on? Why you're just eating your eggs? And she said, it reminds me not of the bad times I had with with my siblings, but all the good times. And it turns out, when I think of all the good times with my siblings, they come back alive with me in this moment. And that did it for me. That was the day that I really started to see that even this is a reminder of the stories being shared, that the spirit comes alive in this moment when we start playing the song of life, right? The spirit of who we really are. And what a gift, what a beautiful feeling to be in this room. I finally can go to my mom and say, I know what you mean. I can dance with her in that space now. I really do. I really know what that means. And it's such a gift. And I'm telling you, I couldn't have seen this gift without all you guys. I mean, this is not I know insights come from us, but the connectiveness of that we are all in this together as one just makes it such a deeper connection, deeper insight for me and for everyone. It's our insight. I'm just seeing one glimpse of it from my perspective, but it's a universal insight, and what a gift. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful. I thought this was supposed to be me talking, but so glad it's not my webinar. This is ours, and this is beautiful. I couldn't have asked for anything more than this.
So is everybody else feeling filled up to the tippy top like I am?
This was just such a wonderful call. I'm so grateful to be on this call, and for you, Terry. Um, I know we have a little bit of time left, but I do want to say a couple things. I do donate, the proceeds. This is not a bestseller. It's a blank book, trying to be funny about the principles. But the way this, I don't work for the Center for Sustainable Change, but she is trying to do something big. She is trying to bring this out into the world. And you didn't tell me to do this, Terry, so I'm doing this on my own behalf and out of my own selfish reasons. But, you know, my original introduction to the principles, where I started going to Michael Neal's events and all that, was through Terry. Like, she was behind the scenes, but her love and compassion kind of catapulted the feeling before I even met with Michael. Like, she kind of prepped me to see that, wait, this is how we're made of love. We're coming from this space. Go have fun with Michael. But she would nudge me with love every time I went to a Michael Neal event, and she was in the background. And now that she's in the forefront running the Center for Sustainable Change, I know donations and helping her would be so valuable in any way you can. Like I said, I'm doing my part as much as I can, and I know so many guys are as well. But if it is possible, to help. She doesn't really like talking about this. I know she even when we talked about this, she's like, should I put a donation button on the bottom? Should I not? Is it weird? Should I? And I know it's one of those things no one likes to talk about, but really, if this stuff is useful, if this connection is worthwhile to share for others, that's how she can get this to grow. So that's all I wanted to say, my little tidbit.
I just want to add to that my husband and I had a discussion very early on in our marriage, when we first got married, of what would you love to do in the world? What would you like, your dream job or whatever? And we said, we would love to take other people's money and just go spend it and make people happy. We would just like to love people and help everybody who needs to be helped and just give. And if we could be paid to do that and just make ends meet, that would be so awesome. And about 3 months ago, I looked at him, I said, you know what? We are doing that. We are being privileged to be in a position where we can love other people and just share. And when I worked with Michael, one of the best things that came out of that was that I felt there was a community of people who got to meet each other. First, it was at the coaching academy where people were in the room and they loved each other. And later it became online. And I could see that you could still carry those feelings on online. And most people would think that's not really the venue for that. You have to be in person, but you don't. It carries through. And to create a community of people who can tap each other on the shoulder and say, remember, I love you. Remember, we're in it together. You're not alone. Would just be incredible. If everybody in the world had what we had for the last hour, could you imagine how much suffering would go away? But I'm just really grateful to be in this position and to have all of you here with me. And Amir, you went and made me cry.
And that's just fine.
I do want to tell you guys about a couple things. On Sunday, the 20th, we're going to be on Zoom like this for 12 hours. So you have to come and keep me company because I really don't want to be alone on the Zoom for 12 hours. But we're going to make it fun, and we've got giveaways, and many, many people have donated coaching sessions. You can win a coaching session with Judy Sedgman, with Michael Neal, with Linda Pettit. I mean, it's just been an outpouring of love, and they're doing that so that we can create a community where everybody can find each other. It's so great when you go to the conferences and you say, oh, I met this teacher and I'm a teacher and we have this in common and we got this discussion going. And not everybody can attend the conferences, and a lot of people that are learning about the principles don't have the means to go to all these trainings and things like that, but they can be a part of the community. And you don't have to be a practitioner, you just have to be interested in the principles. So anybody that you talk to, your clients, your friends, your family, that has just a little interest in it, they're welcome to be a part of the family too. And that would be the greatest gift for me to give the world, would be a community that can love each other online like we do when we're all together. So please come and share the celebration of what we're doing, get excited about it, win some great things, some books and coaching sessions, and share what you know for sure. The reason why we went with the what I know for sure is because when it fell into my lap that I became the director of CSC, I was really worried about it. And I don't share the principles. I don't teach the principles. I'm not on a stage. I don't do that. I'm behind the scenes. And Judy Sedgman, like every other principal teachers, has said, just share from what you know. And I really tried to keep it as technical as possible in the beginning. And I was making a call one day, and the goal of the call was just to ask them how they wanted their receipt, whether they wanted it to be toward a donation or toward a purchase. And she picked up the phone and she was obviously crying. And I just was taken aback. It was a business call. And her son had gone into a mental hospital the night before. And she'd been up all night crying over him and forgotten that we had a call. And it just happened. It just came pouring out, the love. And I didn't think about it anymore, about what I was supposed to do. You just knew what you're supposed to do when somebody's there. And so I don't think about it too much anymore. And when I do, I try to dismiss it as quickly as possible. But I would really like everybody else who has those same feelings of, you know, I'm not meant to share this, I don't have enough, or I don't know it well enough, to think about what they do know for sure. Because there's some things that we see, and we see it so clearly and so right when we're settled down. We know an awful lot that could do an awful lot of good. And so we're going to be sharing all those stories on Sunday too. So I hope you all can join us.
I'm going to have to do an amended one now to include this love thing, because it's like, I know that for sure.
And the great thing is there's no limit to these. We can do as many as you want. You know, anything that, you know, your insights come, and they might seem so simple at the time you have them. And, you know, my very first insight was I don't have to track my moods all day. And that little insight ended up getting me off 20 years of medication. So the least little tiny bit that we see, and we really see, has so much power to do so much good in the world.
You know, if I had to do a video right now about what I know for sure, is I really have to pee. And that's, and I don't know if that's what you guys were looking, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's authentic.
I'm being in the moment.
Amir, do you have to pee? I'm a nurse. I'm concerned.
No. Do you do coaching on that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I could coach you on that. Sure.
Okay.
Listen, this little white girl from, a little white Protestant girl when I was an AIDS nurse, I got into conversations that would make your hair curl with my gay male colleagues as an AIDS nurse. And if I could just have been my mother being a fly on the wall, listening to me have conversations about morning erections, it would have been really funny. But anyway, I digress. Um, I do have an insight that just came to me. Is it okay to jump in? Yeah.
Yes.
And that is, years ago, I read a book when I was a young woman called Fat is a Feminist Issue. I don't know if anybody on the call may have heard of that title, but the premise of the book was written by this very strong, socially minded woman that said the reason why diets and weight loss and food and all this stuff is such a preoccupation of, I guess, a Western woman is because it's a misogynistic way of keeping women preoccupied with their what they look like and what they're eating and what they're not eating, and if they're acceptable, if they're not acceptable. If they can keep their eye on that ball, then they're going to stay out of the messy stuff like running the world or governments or being involved in a more in-depth way. And it occurred to me just before when Amir was talking about his mom, and there's something in the culture that we've all grown up in and the outside in mentality that has, whether by design, some evil forces orchestrated it, or because that's just the way that however we've evolved, where we're preoccupied with reducing stress or keeping track of our moods all day, or which pills we should take, or who should be our friend, who's going to get us to the top, whether or not everything outside in has been really, really good at diverting us from the essential way. And this is going to change the world. This is changing the world. And it's about time. And I can look back and say, what a shame that we haven't been on to this a little bit sooner, but all things in due time. And I just think that's just really what just occurred to me is how struck I was with that insight years ago about, wow, all this preoccupation with my weight and what I look like is really some sort of plan by, the man to keep me in the kitchen barefoot, but and I don't know if there's some evil plan about outside in, but enough is enough. Let's just drop all that stuff and just cha-chung and dance and be alive and happy and connected and together rather than not. Thank you.
So I'm thinking that Amir really made a statement about an important bodily function. And I'm wondering how he's doing.
Try and debate if it's my thinking or if it's my bladder. So I think I'm doing all right. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. We're getting closer to the time. I was gonna share one more story, if you guys are down for it, and then we can go from there. My last group at my recovery center, they're very uncomfortable being silent for a little bit. Like we've kind of mastered that in this community. We're okay with it, right? In the recovery center, as soon as they're settled or they're quiet, they go to the noise that's in their head. That's the first thing. So usually the antidote to that is to immediately speak. On the last recovery meeting, it got silent, and a person spoke after a couple minutes and said, "I'm alive and free. I'm alive and free." And everyone in the room nodded their head in unison. And that's I feel like that on this call today. Like I'm alive and I'm free. I can't wait. Like I'm going to give my wife the biggest hug when we hang up on here. She's probably going to think what just happened. But man, this love seeps through, and this community just brings it out of me. Again, I'm so grateful. This has just been so incredible. That's all I have to say. And yeah, it's so nice to be free and alive and in love. And I love you, all of you guys, for allowing me to be in this experience with you guys. So thank you for having me and for letting me play along with you guys. Thank you.
I think that's a good note to end on, even if it is a few minutes early. I think everybody's in a beautiful space, and I think that's what we wanted to do.
Beautiful.
So everybody go have a wonderful rest of your day. And lots of love to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thank you.